idea where their foods come from.
I think that one might change. I think they might say, as John was saying, wouldn't be good enough.
See,
that it has to
one
be
of the things that's
composted first.
always chafed me in the publics and the land grant people looking at organic, because certain organic farmers use natural pesticides.
What does that mean?
They say all organic farmers use these things.
What's a
And it's
natural
all-
pesticide?
A natural
Like what you're
pesticide, things
talking
like
about?
rotenone, pyrethrum,
Chrysanthemums, Roundup,
neem,
Dearest root.
quassia. There's a whole list of these
Are
things.
those bad
And
things?
Congress told the
Well,
National
not if it-
Organic Standards Board, you will review these things and you will decide whether these naturals have to be prohibited. But the truth is that none of them work very well without inerts, and those are all synthetic. So whether or not you believe that poisons are appropriate, whether they're natural or synthetic, and I don't. I think if you have to use poisons, you've missed the whole point of the balance
Being
of nature and
organic.
organic. But even if you can convince yourself that poisons are appropriate, you can't find very many poisons that don't have a synthetic inert. And of course, they're only inert with respect to the one activity that we're talking about. They're not talking about inert with respect to human physiology and human
Why would you call
metabolism.
something like neem, like you're talking about something from the neem plant?
Right.
Why is that poisonous?
Well, it
There's a
has
quality about
insecticidal and bactericidal properties, and that's poisonous and has the same kind of side effects that all biocides would have.
In high concentrations.
And, well, let me put it this way. Here we go again about avoiding risks, Otherwise avoidable environmental contamination. I think those things are avoidable because there's other ways to operate your
What would be the other
your
ways,
growing or
Jim?
your processing to let the balance of nature take over. You don't need to kill things no matter whether you use a natural poison or a synthetic poison.
So the
Some of them
reason
are very damaging to beneficial insects, which are what you want on a
Yeah,
farm.
it
I see.
disrupts
that
the whole,
actually
the whole
predate
system that makes
so forth.
organic work.
the whole environment, the whole
And
ecological
it's toxic
balance.
to people. And people, oh, okay, I can put it in my toothpaste. But that's in your toothpaste. What if it's in your food you're eating all the time? You don't
Right,
swallow your
right.
toothpaste usually, although you get some. But I'm not at
Food's
all
made to
sure
be
that that we shouldn't be using baking soda instead of toothpaste in the first
Right.
place.
So that's 4. What's number 5?
You got number
What's
5?
the fifth?
Well, actually, we would like to say actually that the livestock section has been quite well improved to a degree.
Yes.
I did want to say, however, that the dairy, the milk gets off more than the meat. In other words, there's more allowances for what can go in milk than what can be
Why?
used in meat. And I'm not sure why that is. And one of the veterinarians that used to serve on the NOSB said, that's very curious to me because milk fat can, pick up a toxic
The same thing as body
as well
fat.
as meat fat. So what is that all about? And I think, well, again, milk has got more organic history than meat, and when the board was first formed, it was actually quite difficult to even get into livestock issues because there's quite a lot of vegetarianism and there's lots of animal rightists and all kinds of different angles about animals that people didn't want to go visit a processing plant. They didn't, So it just was a hard subject to even bring up. But we feel people are still eating meat, and they need to eat good meat. They need to find sources and support farmers who are raising good meat
Right.
that's certified organic and that doesn't allow antibiotics or hormones or
So those
parasiticides
laws are in
and-
position.
And
I
our
mean,
fed organic food, that's all that's in the law, and they've pretty well followed that. But one of the defects in the law, unfortunately, is this difference between milk and meat. You take a dairy cow and you feed her organically for 1 year, and now she's organic. A meat animal must be fed from conception. The mother must be, except with a few exceptions for replacement breeding stock. But even then, it has to be the last third of gestation. The mother must receive organic feed. None of that's true for dairy, unless the dairy steers want to be organic. Then they would have to get a little better.
Really?
But that was 12 months. The new rule says 90 days.
That's it?
And they're going to lower this even more.
For organic milk?
For organic milk.
90 days organic?
From 90 days from drug use. I'm not sure
You have to wait
whether
90
they lowered
days
it
before
on
you
the
can sell
feed.
it.
I guess the feed still has to be organic for the 12 months, but they've got the drug use
Well, they can use
and
parasiticides, they can
antibiotics
use
and
wormers
parasiticides all
and different
flucked in
kinds
there
of stuff.
with a 90-day withdrawal period.
That's
and
ridiculous.
And that's
That's not what
practically the
consumers
same
are
as a
expecting at
conventional
all.
withdrawal period. there's hardly, any difference
All
there.
right, so here's the question. I know that there are dairy farmers out there who have conscience, and so how do consumers find them over the ones who don't?
Well, they're just
Well-
going to have to ask a lot of extra questions. And, there's two large kind of competing organic that people can see, Horizon and Organic Valley, in a lot of the stores. And,
There are smaller dairies,
if
though,
we're picking organic products, we would usually pick those because there isn't much else to pick from right now. And obviously, if we had dairy animals ourselves, we'd be using our own milk. And there may not be anybody who decides to go farther than that. I
Right
mean,
now-
we've decided to go farther than what was in the past before because we just felt 100% organically fed. I mean, and we have this
Makes
diversity
sense.
of grain and things like that where it's not just corn for the grain and hay. It's like 7
and
grains or so.
synthetic amino acids and
Well, proves that
all the
we-
things they substitute for a diversified diet.
So what about putting together a list of the things that you do on your farm? So actually, I, as a consumer educator, could educate my consumers as to here's what one of the better farms, or the best farm does. So, raise the bar. Here's what the standards are at the very best place. And what about organic dairy farmers? Show me some of the standards that you think they should, or the questions we, the consumers, should ask.
Well, at the moment, it's really buyer beware, and until USDA gets this rule promulgated, and I think it's going to be a number of years before they finally do, if they ever do,
For dairy?
for anything.
Okay.
You really need to do your own checking. You need to go out and talk to the farmer. Don't go to the store and believe that everything that's on the package, especially if it's not identified as to where it was grown by whom.
Okay.
And,
we have spent a lot of time trying to do articles and do our own newsletter.
we believe in
and send
source
things out.
identified organic
Right. Right.
food and labeling that is to the highest standard, pure
So-
organic.
Tell me this, why, for instance, is Roseland Farms superior to other USDA standards in other farms? Tell me what
Well, one of the
makes-
things was, I think, the feed that we've used continually from our own farm. We don't sort of risk buying stuff from somebody else, and we do keep a diversity of grain.
You grow
It's
your
all stored
own.
at our own farm. We don't go down to an elevator and store it and hope that they don't mix it with somebody
And it's been
else's.
20 years.
And it's just been, it's been a
Long
long time
time.
coming.
All of our breeding stock were born and raised on the farm from organic feed, from organic mothers. The original herd is long gone, so
Let's do a tour out to your place, that would be fun.
Sure.
Pack
A lot
everybody
of
in
the
bus.
growers came, or the producers in particular for livestock, said, well, we just want to buy calves, 6 months old and then start.
Why?
And, no time period,
obviously
hardly
they
at
can
all
get a
to
high
be
price
organic.
without paying the
And
cost.
you know
Can they do
how
that right
important
now?
it is.
On some standards, some
Probably
certification
they
standards,
can.
That's why I'm saying the buyer has to be beware
Does it change
and
state to
ask
state?
to see the standards that
There
you're
are
making
probably
claims
20 or
upon.
30 different certification standards,
And
and
they're all
Michigan
different.
is starting to write ours.
Excuse me, you mean every state has different
Well,
standards?
see, that's why they wrote the Organic Food Production Act in the first place, was to say, okay, here's the bar you all have to get up to. And some of them are above that, and some are below it.
And
I mean, actually, our
USDA
own state has got
Has its
has
penchant
got a
for
problem.
making it a ceiling rather than a floor.
We actually went out of state to get certified because the standards were higher in the certification place that we went to. And everybody will finally probably grudgingly get up to whatever. And we're not even thinking that USDA will all be that high.
Right.
But, we want to be able to, and states' programs can be higher. Illinois, Indiana, any of these that are raising organic food. If they want to have higher standards in a state-run
Right.
program, they can do so. And consumers should urge them to do that.
We're running out of time, unfortunately. We've got a couple minutes here. Tell me about why pregnant women and children should be consuming non-organic meats, in your opinion.
Well, all those things we already mentioned. Hormones, for one thing. I was
Pesticides,
just listening to a
hormones.
program about early puberty in young children and so
Right.
forth. They're getting all these hormone-mimicking pesticides, first of all, or extra hormones, antibiotics, all these sorts of things
The
in meat
EPA
products.
tolerance
It's
for
just
pesticides
horrible
in
for
meat
children.
is 70,000 parts per million, which is humongous compared to what it would be for vegetables. Why do they set it so high? Because that's what they're finding. There's no other
Right.
reason why they would set it that high.
What is it for vegetables?
Oh, a lot of them are like
Point
parts per
oh
billion
one
or
one,
something.
point
Of course,
oh 000,
So to me, the most important thing to look for if you're shopping organic is the animal products, the meat,
Right.
the milk, the cheese, the
The
eggs.
things that kids are eating a lot
Well,
of.
and the other
and
things
then
are animal
there's so
byproducts are
much-
being fed to animals.
So much leeway
is
in
the
some of
mad
these
cow
standards
disease
on the
problem.
animal products compared to the meat, and the differences in certification standards that you really have to do your homework and ask, what
Okay.
do you do and what don't you do, Mr. Organic Farmer?
Let's also do one quick tidbit on how organic farming helps our environment, because our environment is going to hell in a handbasket pretty fast.
Right.
So how does it help?
Well, that's actually the
Leave the
reason
world a
we
better
were
place
first
for our
organic in the
kids.
first place. Do you want pesticides in your drinking water as well as your food?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to have some kind of a wetland program that doesn't kill ducks and habitat?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that's good about organic farms, too, is that they do try to keep, growth and wetlands protected and so forth for
If you-
beneficials and other kind of animals.
If you
that-
believe that there's
affect
a
the farm.
problem with air pollution and there's too much carbon dioxide in the environment, we get global warming and so forth, and it's basically because we're oxidizing all the organic matter in the world. Well, then go up on an airplane and look at a chemical farm versus a organic farm in terms of its greenness
Right.
in the growing season. And
Hugely
people who
different.
wanted, scorched earth, no weeds, no nothing around their house are fooling themselves about how well their air is being cleaned by their own environment.
Right. Sure. Can we grow enough food, John, without pesticides to
absolutely.
feed the
In fact,
world?
I think that the genetic engineering, the truth is not being told by the chemical companies is the yields are falling because of these Roundup, pesticide or herbicide tolerant crops. I mean, let's ask ourselves what was the first genetically engineered product they came up with? Herbicide tolerant tobacco. Now that is all the evils wrapped into one. Why would organic farmers need genetic engineering? At the present time, there isn't anything particularly out there except herbicide and insecticide incorporating crops and herbicide tolerant crops. We don't need insecticides because the balance of nature is there, and we don't need herbicide tolerance. We don't use herbicides.
Right.
So what possible interest would an organic farmer have in trying to push having genetic engineering available to him?
Right.
There's absolutely no reason at all.
Amazing. Just
Um,
amazing. We've
The
got to
balance
wrap
of
it up.
nature is
Is
what it's
enough
all
to take
about.
care of it. We want to thank you for being here. As usual, it just flies when you're here. If you'd like more information about Roseland Farms, or you want more information on the USDA, there's an address that we're going to post up real quick. If Bill could do that for me, you can get on your email, your website, and look up the National Organic Programs homepage at http://www.ams.usda.gov/NOP. If you need that, call my office. I'll be happy to give it to you, and or give me a jingle. And you know what? Until next time, take good care of your health. I'm Deborah Arneson. Hope you stay away from those pesticides. Bye-bye.